Welcome back to another crochet tutorial with Cozy Rosie UK, and today I'm going to be sharing with you the V-stitch. Now I absolutely love the open fabric that's created with this V-stitch, and it does look particularly nice when it's worked up in two colours. So I'm going to be showing you an example of that as well. Now before we get started, make sure you've hit that subscribe button and of course the notification bell so that you never miss out another one of my crochet tutorials or patterns again. In this tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you how to crochet the V-stitch using the US double crochet, which is the same as a UK treble crochet. It's sometimes known as the treble crochet V-stitch, double crochet V-stitch, simply V-stitch. There's different ways that people describe this pattern. Let's start with the very basic double crocheted V-stitch. That's a US double crochet. Now I'm going to be using just some Paint Box Simply Aran. This is a size 4. Not that important. You can use this tutorial for any size and weight of yarn. Just choose the recommended hook size or the hook size that matches the gauge for the pattern that you're working on. If you're looking to use this stitch in a blanket, for instance, then simply crochet a chain that is the length of the width of the blanket you would like to make. You just need to make sure that your chain is a multiple of 3 plus 3 for your foundation chain. So I'm going to start by making a slip knot and placing that onto my hook. We're going to be making a starting chain of 28 plus 3 for a total of 31. So we yarn over and pull through to create our first chain and repeat that for a total of 28 plus 3, which will give us a total of 31. I'll see you once you've made your 31 chains. That's 28, and then we do the extra 3. So 28 is divisible by 3, and then we're doing 1, 2, and 3 for our foundation chain. So from here, we're going to be working 1 double crochet into the 5th chain from hook. This loop on our hook does not count. There's number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we've got, just double check that again. So we've got the first one that gets a little bit too small. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to be working our V-stitch straight into that 5th chain from hook. So we yarn over the hook, insert our hook underneath that top loop of that 5th chain, yarn over, bring a loop up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 for our double crochet. Now these skip stitches count as our first double crochet of the row and 1 skip stitch. So the 4th chain that we skipped counts as the base of our foundation, and then we have 1, 2, 3 chains that count as a double crochet. We're going to continue to work into the same chain. We begin by making a chain of 1. This creates that V look in this stitch by putting a space in between each of the double crochets. We then yarn over and reinsert our hook back into that same chain again, ready to work the second part of the V-stitch. So we yarn over and bring our loop up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. We're then going to skip the next 2 stitches. So there's number 1, number 2, and we're going to insert our hook into that next one. So we're yarning over, ready to work a US double crochet. We skip 1, 2 and insert into the 3rd chain along, yarn over, bring a loop up. You should have your 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. We then make our chain of 1 to create that V-stitch before we work our second double crochet back into that same chain. So we yarn over and insert, yarn over, bring a loop up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. You can see the start of these V-stitches looking rather nice already. We're going to repeat this all the way down our chain until we have just 2 chains remaining. So we skip the next 2 chains, working our V-stitch into the 3rd chain along, pull through 2, pull through 2 for our first double crochet. We then yarn over to work our chain 1 before we work our second double crochet back into that same chain again. Skip the next 2, working our V-stitch into that next chain. In between, we're placing that chain 1 to create that pretty V, before working that second double crochet into the same chain. So continue to repeat this all the way across until you have just 2 chains remaining, and I'll meet you at the end of row 1. Once we have just these last 2 chains remaining, we're going to skip the next chain, working 1 double crochet into that last chain. So at the end of round 1, you should have 9 V-stitches and 1 double crochet at each end. Remembering that that starting chain 4, 1 was the base, and then we have 3 that count as our double crochet, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9 V-stitches, and that second double crochet at the end. Going into row 2, we begin with our turning chain of 3. Now this chain 3 does count as a stitch, which means we don't need to work into this first stitch here, and we're going to skip the next stitch because we want to work into the middle of the V-stitch to place our next V-stitch. So we're working into that chain 1 space in between that V. So we yarn over the hook and insert into that chain 1 space, not into the top of the stitch, into the chain 1 space, work your first double crochet, a chain 1 followed by a second double crochet. We then skip the next 2 stitches to find our next chain 1 space. So we're skipping this stitch, and there's our chain 1 space, and it's in between the V, not these bigger holes at the bottom, but in the middle of the V, the top of the V I suppose. We're yarning over and inserting back into that chain 1 space to work our double crochet, chain 1 and a double crochet. Continue to repeat this all the way across to your last stitch, and I'm going to be changing colours to show you just how vibrant the V-stitch looks when it's worked in a multiple of colours within the same project. I'll see you at the moment at the end of row 2. So I've worked my last V-stitch into that chain 1 space, and the last thing to do is to place 1 double crochet into the top of our beginning chain. So I can just see this is the back of my chain here, and I'm going to yarn over my hook ready to work a double crochet into the top of that chain. So I'm going to yarn over, bring my loop up, yarn over and pull through. Now I'm going to be changing colours, so I'm pausing here, ready to place my new colour over my hook and just bring that through to finish that last stitch, and then we're ready to move into row 3. So I'm going to start with my turning chain of 3, just as we did, because we're repeating row 2. This counts as our double crochet. We skip the next stitch, ready to work into that chain 1 space again. I'm going to continue to work across both rows 3 and 4, where we're just repeating row 2, and then I'm going to be sharing with you a variation of the V-stitch, working a different stitch to create the V. But my goodness, does it stand out even more so when you work it in more than one colour. I've seen examples of where it's been worked in 1 colour per row, changing colour in every single row in that instance, through to changing colour every 2 rows. So you see more of the chevron look that is achieved by this V-stitch. Already you can see just how much it makes that stitch pop, and I really like it. I'll see you at the moment at the end of row 4 when I've worked 2 colours of this beautiful yellow colour, and I will see you in a moment for that stitch variation. So I've reached the end of row 4 and I'm just carrying up my colour change. There's no need to fasten off, and I'm completing my colour change in that final stitch of row 4 and just making sure that there's no tightness on these colour changes so that we are ready to proceed into row 5. Once again, you can see how lovely these colour changes work up. But I want to take the opportunity to show you a stitch variation, because your V-stitch can be worked in more than just the US double crochet. If I pull back so that there's no chains there, I'm going to show you how to work the half double crochet V-stitch. We simply begin with a chain 1, but this time that chain 1 does not count as a stitch. Instead, we yarn over the hook and insert into the same stitch as our chain 1, yarn over to bring up our 3rd loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 to complete that half double crochet. We would then work a half double crochet V-stitch, working 1 half double crochet, a chain 1, yarn over and insert in the same chain 1 space to complete the second half double crochet. It's worked essentially the same as the double crochet V-stitch, it's just that it's a lot smaller. This can be great if you're varying the heights in your stitches, working in different colours as you go, or you can simply just use it to create a more dense crochet fabric. Instead of working a double crochet at the end of this row, we're simply going to work a half double crochet. And you can see that it creates a similar effect with those spaces in between the V-stitches and the spaces in the V-stitches. It's just much shorter in height because it uses a shorter stitch. You can even create the V-stitch using a US single crochet or a UK double crochet to make an even smaller stitch. There's so many different ways that you can use the V-stitch, and I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial of an introduction into it. Don't forget, if you're looking to make your own blanket using the V-stitch, head over to the link in the description box and you can find all the details of how to calculate your own chains. Thank you as always for joining me. I will see you in the next video.